Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for the premiere episode of Kamen Rider Zeztz, our first Rider series simulcast here in the US as well as other places thanks to tokusatsu. If you're wondering how to watch it, figure it out for yourself, dorks. No, I'm just kidding. But it simulcasts at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Pacific time. That was like a little kid Rugrats mispronunciation. Anyway, Pacific time. It's at a specific time, Pacific time, but 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And then there is other re-airing times. I saw on Toku Nation the first ones. I don't know if it's always going to be the same. And it's worth noting that when I watched the episode, it immediately started playing again. I hope they keep doing that just because I don't know the logistics behind all this. But I really had hoped that after it's, streamed live, that it would be just immediately available to stream. Not just for convenience, because I don't know if I'm always going to be able to make the streaming times, but also I feel like you're going to reach a wider audience by having that available. Like, I was kind of hoping this would, spread the word of Toku a little bit, and I feel making it like, oh, you got to catch it like it's on cable. I don't know. So I hope they figure out something later where it's easier to find. Regardless, this was super cool and exciting. I did manage to watch it live, and I did my initial reactions the other day, but let's dive into the episode. I'm a minute in and I'm just prattling on. So I'll say overall, this was awful. No, I'm just kidding. This was really good. I really quite liked it. I thought it was solid. There was a lot I really liked. No matter what, I'm always going to wish Rider and Sentai premieres were an hour, but I think especially with this one because it felt the most like a normal TV pilot in terms of the feel. Like the feel of it, it had this level of professionalism. Not that, Toku isn't professional looking, like Gav didn't look like a total fan production or anything, but you know what I mean? Like, this felt like a Rider procedural feel, and it made me wish it was an hour long. So no matter what, no matter how efficient you have the episode, I'm always going to want an hour. But I thought this one was pretty efficient in general, because of course you do get the action at the end to fit it in, to sell the toys for the kids, and then probably to show, hopefully some new audiences like, hey, this is some of the cool stuff we do here. But overall, I think it did a good job of introducing some of the basics, but left things like vague enough where there's still stuff to figure out, but it didn't feel like rushed, like they couldn't introduce it. It felt like mysteries, like it was, I think, meant to be vague. Starting off, I really liked the opening. It's had that opening we got in the trailer of him saving that actress as this kind of suave secret agent, and the music was really good. Like, the score in this is really good so far in general, but the music here really reminded me of Double, probably because you have a bit of that detective feel too, but I felt like I could hear the Double score in this. I had a little mini roller coaster with this though, because I love how cool and suave he was in this, and I was like, this is a nice change of pace from Shoma. Don't get me wrong, love my boy Shoma, but it's just nice to have a variety in protagonist. And then when he wakes up, he's a little bit more everyman type character, and I was like, oh, I was hoping we were going to get that cool character. But it seems we'll get both. That was a huge positive of this episode, as I quite like our lead so far. I like the idea of us having a sort of more everyman character. He doesn't feel as wide-eyed or innocent or annoying as Rider protagonist can be. Like, he doesn't feel as innocent as Shoma, doesn't feel as annoying as Gotchard, but he feels more everyman-y, a little bit lighter. But then we're going to get him having that persona in the dream world, and I'm kind of hoping we eventually see him kind of merge the two personalities, or become more of a version of what we see in the dream, just because it seems like that's who he wants to be and that's his dream, and I like the idea of him slowly being able to achieve that. And the whole dynamic reminds me a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, the Yami Yugi stuff. Obviously they were different people, but you know what I mean. Also a little bit of Zexal. Was it Zexal? Not Zexal. Oh my god, the other one, Vrains, where he had Playmaker as his persona when he went into the virtual world. It's not a dream world, but it just reminded me of that. Back to the opening real quick, though. They also did this really cool opening credits thing where they have the credits appearing throughout it, shooting off of bullets and stuff. Reminded me of certain action movies, and also the Deadpool openings. Was just really cool, especially since it was such an abrupt start, especially since I'm used to sitting down and hitting play on Gav, and I was just sitting here waiting for the stream to start, and it felt like it was a few seconds later or whatever. I'm not judging them, but 0 out of 10. You were late. No, you weren't. But anyway, then all of a sudden it started. I'm like, it felt like it was in the middle of the episode. I'm like, did I miss something? Did they screw up? Did I screw up? And then I'm like, no, it's starting now because the credits rolled. And that also made it feel like a more procedural primetime feeling episode, because you didn't have the opening credits like we always do, and then the ending just had credits rolling over it. There's no ending dance or anything like that. But yeah, it's all a dream, and so you just are introduced to our character who basically desperately wants to be a more confident person, clearly loves spy movies, is always shooting for his dreams, but he's had a lot of bad luck when shooting for those dreams and had a lot of close calls, and his sister doesn't want him chasing those dreams, and then that winds up happening again when he goes to save this little girl, because he's like, I was confident in my dream, I can be confident in real life, and I really like that. It actually reminded me of a quote from Star Trek Strange New Worlds in the crossover episode with lower decks, which was fantastic, where one of the characters says, you can pretend to be the person that you want to be until you actually are that person, and that's kind of what that felt like. Anyway, he ends up in the hospital, and that's when he starts getting attacked by the villains, and that kind of leads us to the main last chunk of the episode. And before we get to that, I just wanted to address that with this case, with this car that had hit him, it like had no driver or whatever, I think that's what it was, and we're introduced to our two detective characters who are investigating these mysterious kind of paranormal dream stuff, and I thought they did a good job of this. Like, that's what I mean by this episode, kind of doing a good job of the basics. You have, you know, here's our main character, here's his goals, here's kind of a little bit of the dream world, here's the henshin, here's some of the other supporting cast. It felt like it was done like well enough, you get the structure of the show, but it didn't feel like it was rushing at all. Like, I'm sure we'll get more with them, more with his sister, obviously more answers. Like, I think the general way they introduced the mythology in the world was well done, because it kind of left it vague in a way that I'm curious to learn more about. Obviously the ongoing mysteries, but the more how it works. But it wasn't enough that like it took me out of it questioning everything. Like, it was just enough that I could get into the final sequence. Something I really liked here when he was being toyed with by the monster was just the way the dream world works for fights. Like, when he gets confidence, then he's like, I can transform into my persona. And he's like, no, but I also have control here. Reminded me very much of like Doctor Strange fights. Also, like, of course, you got Inception, stuff like that. But I really like that. I hope they keep that. Because I was wondering during this, I'm like, are the fights only going to be in the dream world? Like, even if they were, I imagine eventually we get to the real world, but then we get that answer when he wakes up with the belt on him. I kind of had hoped, though, that we maybe kept the fights only in the dream world for, like, the first half, and then you have, like, oh my god, the dreams are escaping into the real world. But we'll see how it plays out. Regardless of how often they fight in the real world or the dream world, I really do hope they do more fights in the dream world, and it's not a concept that's only in the first few episodes, because I like that they can have really imaginative fights. Not just imaginative fights, but imaginative, like, scenarios. Like, the beginning part before they even started fighting, when he was, like, going through doors and stuff, and it was, like, dream logic. Like, obviously the series is a lot about dreams, but there are writer series that will introduce kind of a cool fight idea or something, or an aesthetic, and then abandon it, and I certainly hope that's not abandoned, because it leads to some cool fights. And the fight when he first transformed was pretty good. I think there were some better ones in Gab. This one felt more grounded, which makes sense, but it was still good. I thought the suit looked good in action, especially when you have like the light piping. I really like the way that looks. I love the sounds for the belt. I'm so glad we have a badass sounding belt. I don't think it would be the strongest first impression to have a shrieking crackhead belt for any possible new fans. And then it ends off well. You know, we got our first fight, our intro, and then he wakes up with the belt, and the detective sees him, and so we'll see how it all plays out, and who gave him the belt. He says, I'm in your subconscious, but obviously it's a different character, I imagine, that can somehow also navigate these dream worlds, and we don't really get a lot about the villains. Like, you don't have a group of villains sitting in a chamber plotting and being like, we have to send people after it. You just kind of have some hints of our villain plotting, and then obviously the monster, and I kind of like that because I like the air of mystery. And something else I really like about this that I wanted to close off with was I love the feel of it. I love how it feels different. I miss when Rider felt tonally different than Sentai. You know, for the most part, these last 15 years now, I think, Rider and Sentai have felt so similar, and I miss when they felt like different shows, and I love that it feels like that. It doesn't quite have the same feel as, like, early Heisei, but it has almost a feel of, like, a modern early Heisei feel, but also with, like, a feel of the way Amazon's was a very different show, but I mean, just in terms of the way it's shot. And I really like that. And I don't necessarily need Rider to always feel like this, but I would love for, like, going forward for Rider to feel distinct from Sentai and also have a variety of tones. Like, we could get 2 seasons that feel kind of like this and then have a poppier season like Gaim. That'd be great. Like, I think variety is what makes watching these shows so great. So yeah, overall, solid first impression. I'm eager to check out more. Let me know what you thought in the comments as always. Until next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.